All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. We're on. All right, let me just make sure that I mute myself here. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this rendition of the quarterly meeting, February 15, 2017. So have some updates that we want to share throughout the organization, and then we're going to go through each of the divisions, and each of the division chiefs are going to share some information about that. So just to keep in mind, again, just as every time we get together, we talk about what our goals are as an organization, and that's first and foremost being leading experts in the areas of curriculum, technology, student services, human resources, financial services, and if I didn't mention student services, that's first and foremost. So that's our first goal. So hopefully throughout today, you'll hear evidence of us continuing going towards that goal. Second goal, of course, is our being state-level players for state-level initiatives. And I know that the team is going to be sharing information of how, again, we continue to be involved at the state level, and which is a benefit to our organization as well as to our member districts. And then our third goal, of course, is that of being a purposeful entrepreneurial enterprise for expanding student opportunities. And so I know the team's going to share some examples of how we continue to expand opportunities for kids, within the county. So I'll start off with the executive services update here. First, wanted to share that we now have an official org chart that is now available on our websites, and it is available at our website under information, and then go to employee directory. And the organization chart really gives a nice picture of the organization and how we're organized, and the different services that we offer. On the org chart, you'll see we have delineated here the type of employee or the classification of employee, and then just as important would be then the funding source that then funds those different positions. Because we are a very unique type of organization as compared to a school district where we have many, many different budgets, where the general operating budget is very, very small of the overall operation of the organization. So I think that's going to be helpful. We shared this with, of course, the board at the last month meeting, and we're going to show an update of it this coming one. We also shared it with the superintendents as well, and I think anytime somebody takes a look at this, I think their eyes are open to the vastness of services that we offer, and the complexity of how we're organized. So hopefully it continues to help others understand the organization. And that's why in the last quarterly meeting I shared that I was starting a tour of the county, and I'm happy to share with the group here, by the way, standing room only for those who are watching from afar. I've now attended 13 out of the 17 school districts, and learned quite a bit about each of the districts, and I think that they're learning just as much about the IU as a result of it. So I have 4 more to go, and tour t-shirts are still available at the front desk. Another organization-wide thing I wanted to share is we have been working on our all hazards plan, which is our emergency response plan. And as you are aware, we're all over the county versus one small area concentrated. We have to deal and have the relationships with the municipalities, the first responders, and each of the different townships that we're in. And we've been working very, very hard to update that plan. And I'm very, very happy to share that our plan is not just going to be on paper, and it's not. I don't have my phone with me, believe it or not, but it actually is going to be available via a mobile application called the Mobile Emergency Response Plan, aka the MERP. And so starting into the next school year, employees who are assigned to different sites throughout the organization will then have instant access to our emergency response plans at these different sites versus trying to find the notebook that's been underneath many papers. Everyone's going to have the ability to have it on their phones. You also have the ability to access it via your computer as well. And if you would like to print out a copy, you're more than welcome to print out a copy for yourself as well. But not only are we using it here, and Mr. Vaughn is the one who is leading that project to transfer it onto the MERP, we are also then going to be working with other intermediate units to share the application outside of our borders as a potential revenue stream for the organization. And when we talk about revenue streams outside of the organization, that only then benefits our school districts, because the more revenue that we can bring in from the outside, then it then compensates for any type of member contribution that districts would have to pay. And I've been saying this very publicly and over again, my goal is to get the member contribution down to zero. And so then that way everything is fee for service, and the districts benefit as a result of that. So I'm very happy to share that we are moving towards a mobile application that's going to house our emergency planning system. Next thing I wanted to share in the same regards of Safe Schools, as I shared in November, we have partnered with PIMA to offer a series of trainings here at the intermediate unit, and they've been attended very well from our own IU folks as well as district personnel. And that grant runs out March 31st, and we still have trainings that are scheduled to be housed here. And so we have not only district personnel, but also first responders that are attending those trainings. And that bodes well for the intermediate unit, because it kind of goes back to we want the county to look upon the IU as the educational institution to come to for possible solutions. And so by hosting trainings such as that, we're getting more people to understand what is the IU, where is it located, and what are the things that we offer with that. Okay, sorry, I'm kind of jumping around here. Different things that are going on. Want everyone to be aware that we have begun looking at capital improvements to this particular building as well as the Clairview School, and we are working with the two board committees to discuss what those improvements that we're asking to have done. And I know Mr. Vaughn and Mrs. Liu are looking at then how we would go about funding those particular capital improvements. And in a nutshell, capital improvements that we're looking at doing here would be, of course, roof replacements, the HVAC system here, the work on this particular auditorium where it's standing room only again in here, and looking at reconfiguring how this space, would be used. We're also looking at lighting and replacing it to be more energy efficient as well as cost effective. And then last but not least, a major area that I'm concerned about is the front entrance area and the security of that front entrance area. And how can we make it safer for employees who work at this building, and making sure that people are signing in and there's a barrier to getting into the actual full access to the building. So I think that covers kind of the areas in which we're looking at for capital improvement. So we'll keep you tuned in on the results of that. All right. Another thing I wanted to share as well, the opening day for next year is going to be August 14th, and we are also going to be holding it at the Fred Rogers Center. That seemed to be a hit. Many people thought that was a great setting, as well as the team did. And we're set up to be there Monday, August 14th, so you can mark your calendars. We also are going to be doing something new for new employees. We're then going to follow up on August 15th and 16th with a new employee orientation. And site to be determined probably here at this building, and the agenda to be determined as well. But I think that's something that's well needed for new employees to come in, to understand the IU, how it's positioned statewide, as well as then locally, what do we do? And, this kind of helps people understand a little better of what our intermediate unit does. Alrighty, another topic. Let me just stop and pause for a second. Let me just check our online today's meeting site to see if there are any questions. Nope, I don't see any questions, so I will continue. In the near future, you're going to be getting an email that's going to be promoting a new voluntary benefit for employees. And it's going to be coming from the Innovative Student Loan Solutions Program. And this program, as a result of the AESA, which is the American Educational Service Agency Association, which is the national organization for educational service agencies like intermediate units. So we belong to PAIU, and PAIU belongs to AESA, and it's those partnerships that we're going to be able to bring a voluntary benefit for employees in which they're going to be able to look at and see whether or not their student loans, if you have student loans out there and you're paying them over a 10-year period, that this program may assist you in getting a significant decrease in what you would pay out and actually have part of the loan being forgiven for you. So all of us are currently eligible. That the next part would be then whether or not you qualify for the program. Eligibility is being a member of an organization that provides K-12 services, which we are. So therefore, we're all eligible. Now, it's a matter of whether we qualify. Depends on income, current economic state of your household, and things like that. But it's a benefit that we would have been unable to bring to you unless there was a great partnership at the state and national level. So information is going to be coming soon, and that also counts for those who have loans as employees, but also if your children have loans. And it doesn't necessarily have to be loans for them to become educators either. It may be for them to become an accountant, a marketer, a bricklayer, or whatever. Any type of student loan within your family would be potentially qualify for forgiveness. So for those who are having that type of debt out there, hopefully we're going to be able to provide access to some relief there. So that'll be coming in the next 2 or 3 months, so be on the lookout for that. Let's see, I know Mrs. Liu is going to talk a little bit about the general operating budget. That's up for a vote on February 28th at its board meeting. It was introduced to the board during its January meeting. The general operating budget, 3.5 million or 4.5 million?
It was 5.
5.5. I knew there was a 0.5 there. So that $5.5 million is the general operating budget. And if you're wondering, like, what does that pay for? Well, if you go to our organizational chart, you'll see the positions that funds in terms of the general operating budget. That is a small sliver over the, $47 million operation approximately that we have. And this is important in terms of general operating budget because once the intermediate unit board passes it, then it goes out to vote for the districts. And so as soon as we have a majority of districts vote and pass the IU board, then we're able to file it within the state as our general operating budget. But as I mentioned, we have $42 other million to then budget and account for revenues and expenditures that is not district approved. That is only IU board approved from there. So it just kind of puts it in perspective with that. And as I talked earlier about the general contribution from the districts, that's going to be approximately $357,000. $375. See, I'm getting the numbers mixed up. So if you think about it, of $5.5 million, only $375,000 is being paid by the school districts for the general operating budget. Now the districts do, as you can see on our organizational chart, do pay or fee for service for a lot of the different other services that we offer, but they pay for what they need, So with the general operating budget, as you can see, it's a small number as compared to the other numbers, and really happy to share that we had yet another 3% decrease from one year to the next of a membership contribution. So we're working towards that goal of creating enough revenue that would then backfill and kind of get rid of that general operating budget contribution from the districts there. So I may have stolen your thunder there, Mrs. Liu. I apologize if I did. 2 more things just want to share. You can always access school board agendas, minutes, and so on if you go to the schoolboard.wiu.k12.pa.us. We publicize our agenda the Friday before every 4th Tuesday, which is our board meeting. So if you ever want to know what's going on, what the board is voting on, that's always there and available to you by the end of business on Friday before the board meeting. And the last information item I have is our next quarterly meeting. Physically, we'll be here. Seats were very, very high, according to SeatGeek. Mrs. Allwine paid about $50 to get in here today. But it's for free if you want to watch it from the internet, which maybe some of you are right now watching. So that ends the executive services report.
What date did you say that was?
That's Wednesday, May 17th. Wednesday, May 17th. Okay. All right. So I'll pause there for a moment. Do we have any questions on our physical location? Okay. All right. And so I do have a question on today's meeting, and it says, from Blaine Howard, can you review where the organizational chart can be found on the website again? No problem at all. You can find the organizational chart by going to our website. You go to Information, and then go down to Employee Directory, and it's going to be the very first link under Employee Directory, and it's labeled WIU Organizational Chart. And it's best to be printed on 11 by 17 if you choose to print it. Okay. All right. Any other questions from the brick and mortar setting? Okay, so nothing else from today's meeting. So Mrs. Liu, you're to my left, so do you mind sharing some information from financial services?
Hi, Deb. Actually, since we met in November, we've been very busy. We did an amended budget for early intervention in December. For the current year that we're in, for 16-17, we got that done and submitted to the state. We filed the AFR, the annual financial report, along with the amendment for the prior year that needed to be done. So we got that done in a joint filing, and that was submitted on December 29th under an approved extension that they gave us. We also did year-end rollover for payroll, got W-2s issued. I also did that for Jeanette and Mount Pleasant. Worked on the general operating budget, which was a daunting task, actually, having never done it before. But I think I learned a lot, and my staff was very helpful with that. Anybody that would like to, at some point I'm going to have a meeting with my staff about the general operating budget, and how those of us that are considered admin or overhead get funded. I'll invite anybody that wants to come to that meeting to come. So I'll share that information, whoever wants to participate. But it was very interesting. We did present it for the first review at the January meeting, so like Dr. Conway said, it's up for a vote at our board meeting on February 28th, and once that gets approved, hopefully March it goes through the school districts, and then it be submitted to PE by May 1st deadline. We submitted a preliminary Act 2089 non-public budget in January, and then we also had it's more of a right to know filing, but it's a required IU filing, and it's only a filing that is done by intermediate. It's called a 907A. It's informational about funds and subsidies that we receive of federal and state nature, or through other agencies between IUs. And it's anything over $50,000 or more has to be reported along with the use of those funds. So that got submitted February 2nd, or February 1st. Projects that we're working on as a group, we obviously have lots of different budgets, like Dr. Conway mentioned. Student Services has many different slivers of services that get developed as individual budgets and then combined into an overall student services budget or special education budget. So we will be working on those aspects as we go, and then the early intervention budget as well. So lots to do over the next several months. We have been working on, with Chris Constable's help, she's been working on a master repository of all of our contracts and agreements, so that we have kind of a repository to be able to know what every agreement is that we have. We can track then if the terms expired, if something needs to be done on our part. And each of the division directors will be able to access this and do sorts on their own to make sure that they know what all's on their plate.
And it is truly amazing the number of agreements that we have with different entities, school districts. It's just amazing. I mean, it's a file cabinet full of existing agreements that we have.
And it was just in paper form, so Chris has taken it and put it into a spreadsheet that we will then use in a Google shared environment, and we'll be able to access it and make it a live, living, breathing thing. We are working on some joint purchasing for the county schools, and it includes fuel and multi-purpose paper, so that's underway. Probably we'll go out to bid in the next probably 4 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks. As Dr. Conway mentioned, Eric and I have been working on capital improvements that are necessary here as well as at Clairview. I'm not as familiar with the laundry list that was done at Clairview, but I know that there are some extensive things that need to be done there. So we're working with the Finance Committee and the Technology and Infrastructure Committee of the board. We're meeting with them prior to the 28th board meeting to talk about some proposals about how we establish a capital budget, because we don't have one. So we've been working on that. We also have an upcoming fiscal review. I'm sure Dr. Scholl may get into more detail, but I'm getting exposed to all the requirements of the federal funding programs, and I will be attending that meeting with him in Harrisburg in March. And then we've also been working on some required policies and procedures that are required under Uniform Grant Guidance, or guidelines, for all of our federal funding programs. Those will actually go to the board for the first read this month for hopeful approval in March. And then, you know, my staff has been amazing. I can't say enough about them. They have really embraced helping me in any way that they can, whether it be helping me understand the education or the transportation side of special education needs, or helping with accounts payable, accounts receivable, or payroll. And I can tell you that obviously there was a gap here before I got on board, and they kept the day-to-day stuff running, but they continue to educate me on what needs to be done, and I greatly appreciate that. So.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Liu.
Any questions?
Any questions from the financial side of things?
Oh, and we did the quarterly foundation reports as well, so we keep up with that kind of stuff. Training stuff.
Okay. All right. Doesn't look like we have any questions online. All right. So, Mr. Hamill, Curriculum Services. What do you got?
Okay. So to kick it off, quick report on E-Academy. We're on track to break a record with our enrollments. Actually, very soon. We're right now approaching our maximum enrollment from last year. Currently nearing 2,600 enrollments for the year, which is really tremendous for us. It's growing fast, and we've maxed out our fleet of equipment that we use, our laptops, our wireless MiFi units that go out. We've had to purchase additional to get into the program and use. So it's a great sign that things are ever expanding. And speaking of expanding, for E-Academy, we've been designing and getting ready to roll out what we're dubbing E-Academy Plus, which is an expansion of E-Academy to include a whole new catalog of coursework that we are using from a partner group from one of our sister IUs, Capital Area IU. So we'll be adding a whole laundry list of courses that we currently can't offer, don't offer, including AP courses and some more of the off-the-wall languages that aren't available too many places, not too many places where you can take Japanese 4, And so these are the kind of courses that we'll be able to offer now. It really opens up and gives us an opportunity to create a much more robust catalog of coursework. So we're excited about that and getting ready to roll that out for the upcoming school year. A lot of work being done on the back end of that to get it ready. We recently held here at the IU the Governor's State STEM Challenge, our regional competition. The winner of that competition was Penn Trafford. It's kind of interesting, their design. The challenge was to create a device that solves a problem within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, something that's unique to Pennsylvania. And they designed a device that you put in your driveway, and instead of spreading salt in your driveway, it does a liquid that sprays through a sprayer across your driveway and melts your ice in your driveway. No touch, right? So it was a pretty unique design, really well done, put together, and well thought out. And they will now go on to the state level competition in Harrisburg in May, and compete with the rest of the winners from other regional competitions. It's interesting, another team from Jeanette was at the competition and came with a device that we actually are really interested in having here ourselves. So we've actually talked to them about producing it and actually bringing it into play here. They designed a power tower. So one of the issues we have in classrooms, those of you who are out in classrooms, you know charging technology becomes an issue, plugging in the laptops. we don't have power in classrooms that can handle that in many cases. We have the same problem here at the IU in our spaces where we do workshops. When we have people who need to plug in, we're running cords all over the place. They designed these really cool towers that you can bring into the room. They have a long extension on them, so you can plug them into where the one source may be, and the tower's covered with outlets, so you can plug in as many devices as you want. I just think it was a great example of some ingenuity that kids thought about a problem that we have, and they addressed it and came up with a great solution. So that was an exciting day because you really got to see kids in action. And getting back to what Dr. Conway said earlier, one of our goals is to do more for students, to do more for kids here in this location. And that was a great example of that. Remake Learning, another partnership that we have with a regional organization. Remake Learning hosts in May what they call Remake Learning Days. This year it's been expanded to a 2-week time period, and we have 11 events happening within Westmoreland IU this year. Norwin, Penn Trafford, I'm going to blank on the names of districts. Fort Ligonier is actually involved. York, the IU, to name some of the participants. But between those groups, we have 11 different events happening during those 2 weeks that will be part of the Remake Learning Days. And that will be published across all of southwestern Pennsylvania. It's a large initiative. We're not the only ones involved. So excited that the level of participation has grown this year. Another exciting project we're involved in is a summer project that's coming up, and that is the creation of an AP Summer Institute. In order to learn what you have to do to offer an AP course in a school district, it's a pretty involved process, and teachers who teach AP courses go through a pretty rigorous learning process to actually teach an AP course. So these summer institutes were developed a while back to provide that opportunity. Unfortunately, there were only 2 locations that were even remotely close to our people in Westmoreland County, and so as a result, we looked at that as an opportunity to offer that service, and we went through the process to get certified, to be able to offer the training, the workshops in the summer, and we're excited that in the month of July we'll be running an AP Summer Institute. We have 11 different subject areas that we'll be offering. The instructors for these will be coming from all over the country. They're not local people. AP certifies the trainers, and they come from all over. We'll be hosting it at St. Vincent. St. Vincent will be doing the housing of the participants and coaches as well. It's really great that we've been able to do it all and offer it at a lower cost than some of the competitive offerings out there. The only other 2 options are pretty far away from our folks, and I think we'll be able to draw some people in from areas even outside of the Westmoreland County. So really excited about that. It's a great opportunity for us to get into something we haven't done before, and that's shaping up to be a really nice stream of revenue for us as well. On top of that, we've had a few really cool workshops here lately. We had Hummingbird Workshop. We didn't make feeders. That's not what we were doing. Hummingbird is actually a robotics platform for students early elementary or middle elementary to late elementary and middle school age. Hands-on programming with robotic components and using a visual programming environment. The neat thing about it was that this is something that was developed locally at Carnegie Mellon University and is a worldwide, well-known platform. And we were lucky enough to have the creator here in the workshop, doing the workshop himself. And he had just come back from London, and his other trainer was in Dubai doing a training. So it was a really cool thing that we had the creator here. It was an opportunity that not everybody gets. And it was a great day. We had some fantastic creations from teachers in the room. And on top of that, we've purchased 40 of the Hummingbird kits that we'll be able to loan out and give to schools to use and put into practice in the classroom when they want to do it. So once they get the training, they can use the kits, take them back to theirs. So we started a little lending library of that type of material. Other events coming up, we have the Academic Challenge, which is kind of like the junior high quiz kind of bowl. What's the word I'm looking for?
Competition.
Thank you. Competition. We usually get most of our schools involved in it. I'm not sure what our count is at the moment, but pretty good participation in that. And again, that's a regional competition that leads to a state level competition for our schools. We also have the Connects STEM Challenge coming up, which is an elementary middle school STEM competition being hosted at the Advanced Technology Center out in New Stanton. Another really cool hands-on event for kids. We're also working with St. Vincent to participate and be a co-presenter of their Summer Institute this year. They do a STEM Institute, and we're planning to be involved with them this summer to do a week-long training there for kids. It's a kind of a camp environment where they come and spend a week. So lots going on, lots of things happening. Last but not least, we've had tremendous success with two new groups that we've created here at the IU, and they're involving our principals. So we have a secondary principal group and an elementary principal group that we've developed here, and have been able to bring together a group of people out there, administrators who have had very little chance to really come together and collaborate. And we've had some super meetings with them in the last few months. Really great things have come of it. In fact, one of the things that developed from the secondary group was a group that they now call the Math Colloquium, which is a chance for them to come together and specifically focus on issues in math in their districts. So we're looking forward to some continued success with that. One other element, I mentioned it at the last quarter meeting, and that was the BARC initiative. BARC being a company that produces an online safety bullying prevention product, if you will, service for parents and students. And we've been working on that partnership, getting it ready, and we are now ready to roll that out. So we're in the final stages of getting started, getting things put together to be able to offer that out. And it's been a long road to get there, but really excited to be able to offer that solution to parents in our region to help with the issues of online safety and bullying, cyberbullying, and even going as far as identifying issues with students such as depression and suicide prevention, things like that. Interestingly enough, I had a discussion with the company just last week, and they just identified last week a student who was they actually saved from a suicide situation through the system, and it was really interesting to hear how it all played out, and that's the kind of thing that they're designed to do. So we're really excited to be a part of that and roll that out here in the next few weeks.
Yeah, and if you're interested in learning more about that, if you go to bark.com, there's a whole, that's their website, it kind of describes their services. We're really excited about this opportunity for the IU to help kids throughout the county. We're going to go through non-traditional ways in which to market this service. Typically we go to the district, see if they're interested, but we're really going to be reaching out to youth groups such as Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, sport and club associations, PTOs, because the more we can get parents exposed to this type of service, the more kids that we can help, throughout the county. And we're not relying on the school district to market it for us. We're going to be the ones going to the parents. And I think, again, that's going to help with the exposure of the intermediate unit to folks to understand further, yet again, that we're part of a solution for kids and education throughout the county. So really excited about that, and it's been well worth the effort. So thanks for your work on that, Sam.
Sure.
All right, anything else, Mr. Hamlin?
That is all.
All right, so let me just see if there's any internet questions for curriculum services before we get into student services by Dr. Shulo. And I don't know if Dr. Shulo is going to share this or not, but I will for student services. Clairview, the Clairview Wolves beat the, how do you say? Cullinan Heights Crusaders in their first season basketball opener today, 26-20. And so Mr. Zawash was a great referee, only threw Mr. Saunders out, what about the third quarter of the game that you threw him out before. And not only did we have kids playing the game, we also had a cheer squad that in between every stoppage of play, they had a halftime show. It was truly remarkable, and the participation and parents and the press was there. So look on the Trib tomorrow, I'm sure, or later this evening, I'm sure there's going to be some type of story. We were trying to push it to get it on all of the news stations to make it part of their newscast in the evening when they report on sports. So the next home game is March 15th. And then I think another one, April 26th. They do go on the road, I think, for their next game down at the Heights. So, but anyway, hopefully I didn't steal that thunder from you, but it was actually wonderful to see. Those kids really played hard today. So, with that, Dr. Shulo, what do you have for student services?
I wanted to start and welcome officially to the IU some new staff members that joined us after opening in service. We have Amanda Campbell and Tammy Jeanette as SLPs in early intervention. Carolyn Zatowski, Elizabeth Newman, Stephanie Kettering, Karen Davis, Tammy Cardis, and Ken Miller as paraprofessionals in EI. Melissa Lupinacci and Jake Cole joined as math teachers at Crossroads. Michael Bowen as a science teacher at Crossroads. And then we hired on Angel Stahl as a technology integration teacher at Clairview with a start date to be determined. We also had 2 shifts. Marissa Rega became a mental health specialist for us, and Denise Neveson recently started as an educational consultant. One last staffing update is that we did have the board approved to start an additional ICE classroom over at Crossroads. That position started as a long-term substitute, started Monday. So that's an increase in that program, which we're very, very excited about. I'm also very excited to mention that in that list of new staff members, there are 3 growth positions in that list, meaning that's 3 employees that we brought on since the happenings took place last spring. So we already are a division that's growing again, which is very exciting for us. Since the fall, we have worked hard to address the substitute issue that we experienced. We did that by hiring 5 dedicated subs that work in all of our programs. In addition, we raised our substitute compensation rate a little bit. As a result, we've seen a 20 to 25% increase in our fill rates, which, although it sounds as though we increased pay rates, we've decreased our overall costs in substitute teachers because we've taken the need for that coverage of another person's class has reduced. That we were paying more for teachers to cover other teachers than we're paying our subs. So even though we're helping the subs pocketbook, we're saving our pocketbooks a little bit. So that's very exciting to say that we have increased that fill rate by about 20 to 25%.
So our fill rate's about what, 90%?
We're falling in mid-80s.
Mid-80s.
Which is pretty good. We would shoot for about an 80% overall. So if we're halfway through with the mid-80s, we're on the right path. In addition, we have formed in conjunction with some technology and infrastructure division and the HR division, a data team that meets on a regular basis to address our processes and procedures for collecting and storing and implementing procedures for data collection. So as a result, certain groups of staff members have seen some changes to their processes, and we appreciate working with us through those. You will continue to see those as this data team continues to refine what it is we're looking for and do. So I appreciate the work that we've done on that.
And I think it's important too, like, if there are concerns, make sure that you bring that up to your supervisor that then the supervisor brings it up to Dr. Shulo. So, we are exploring any type of issue that might be out there. Whatever you do, don't keep it to yourself. Make sure that you share it, with your supervisor, so then we can, look at it from our perspective and see what we can do to improve on it. I think communication is the key, with your supervisor and solving whatever issues that might be out there.
Great. We also had an EI, the EI staff went through a technical assistance audit in early December. This audit brought in 8 people from the state to look at our program, look at our procedures, our contracts, everything that is involved in EI, and gave us recommendations on how to improve our program. So we have taken those recommendations, shared them out with EI stakeholders, gotten feedback, and Brandy and her team are working with me right now to develop an action plan on how to implement those changes that will just make us run a little bit smoother, continue a very strong program that we have, but make it run a little bit better for our kids, which is what our goal is. So kind of along the same lines, we wanted to take the opportunity to look at our ClareView and Crossroads program as well. So as some of you know, I've embedded myself in ClareView, and will be there through March 7th, just to get to see what it is that we can identify needs over there, how we can better support the program to make it that gold star service to meet that expertise level that Dr. Conway is striving for. I will then be moving to Crossroads. I'm scheduled to be at Crossroads starting April 1st and plan to be there for the month of April to do the same thing.
And I think it's important to note too that as a team, as a cabinet team, we had a lot of discussions about what can we do to improve, those Crossroads and ClareView, meaning take it to the next level of service for our districts. That we want people knocking on the door to get into those types of into those schools, and we know that we may not have in the past have invested as much into the resources needed to get it to that level. And so, I commend Dr. Shulo for, housing himself there. I think he was trying to get away from me, but housing himself there and really embed himself to really learn about what's going on there and how can we best as an organization support those programs, because that's what we should be doing. It's not about revenue, it's about how can we offer the best services for kids, and I commend you for doing that. So thanks again for doing that.
The last thing we're looking to revamp, so to speak, is our Act 89 non-pub services. Kate Signorelli is working with us to sort of make a pitch to the diocese and non-pub schools to say, how can we better provide services to them? Whereas right now we contract with folks to provide those services. We would like to explore ways in which we can provide them without the use of contractors. So that is something potentially that we'll look at for the fall. There are a couple things to be on the lookout for. We have started the staffing process for the 17-18 school year. That, of course, starts with projections of what students we're going to have and soliciting the districts to see what services they intend to purchase from us next year. So that process has started. The first phase of that process that pertains to professional and paraprofessional staff are the bid sheets. So I'm working with HR. We've dedicated 3 2-hour meetings in the month of March to make sure that those bid sheets are as accurate as they need to be and ready to go for April 15th for professionals and May 10th for classroom assistants. So we hopefully are on par to get those out there. ESY staffing intents went out about 2 weeks ago. Just a reminder, if you intend or wish to work for employment for ESY, they are due to me by the 17th. And the last thing I have to be on the lookout for is that we will be again naming a Annie Sullivan Award winner as well as a paraprofessional of the year, and we are looking to present those to our board at the April meeting. So you will be receiving information from Kate Signorelli very soon about nomination instructions.
All right, thank you, Dr. Shulo. Any questions from those physically in the meeting that you might have for Dr. Shulo? Just check the internet and see if there's any that pop up. things popping up. So Mr. Vaughn was unable to make today because he was actually traveling from Harrisburg. He was representing the IU at the P&C, which is the Pennsylvania Educational Technology Conference and Expo. I may have mixed those letters up. So he was representing us there and getting some professional development as well for himself. I'm sure that he would have wanted to have shared information about the capital improvements that are being discussed with the board. I'm sure he would have asked me to, he asked me to share that we continue to entice others outside of our geographical footprint with some of the applications that we've developed in technology and infrastructure services. Case in point would be our online forms management system, where we now have developed an application to create forms and then have electronic signatures get passed on from employee to supervisor to whoever needs to sign those, and get rid of passing of the papers around. And we actually have a number of districts in the Edinburgh area, IU5 area, that are interested. We also have other IUs and districts that are, I can't name who they are right now publicly, but we have great interest, and it's growing with that. I know Eric would want to talk about the all hazards plan and the MERP and some of the movements with that. And I think that's about it from technology and infrastructure. Okay. All right. Well, we're going to conclude the meeting today. Are there any questions from the group, from the whole that you might have about us, about anything that we went over today? I really appreciate you all coming today, and I appreciate everyone that joined us online. Hopefully you're finding these quarterly meetings meaningful and valuable information. We have a lot of things to share, a lot of great things to share, and hopefully, as I started the meeting off earlier, that those 3 goals, you can see all of our efforts are going towards meeting those goals. And everything that we do, everything that we shared, everything can be tied to one of those goals. And I thank each and every one of you for investing your time being here, because that means a lot, that you care enough about the organization to know where we're going, where we're heading, and being involved. So you continue to be our first ambassadors out in the field as we continue to rebrand ourselves, re-image ourselves to the districts, continue to rebuild that confidence the districts have in the IU. And if we look back where we were a year ago to now, I think we've made some great strides as an organization. And it's to you all that we thank for helping us make those strides. So with that, we'll conclude the February quarterly meeting 2017. Do I have a motion to adjourn? All right, yes, so everyone raised their hands, so peace out. You stay classy out there, Westmoreland. Take care. I'm Ron Burgundy.